Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Batra, pages 61 through 67. Samach Aleph, 61. Hamocheret habayit lo machar et hagag. If you sell a house, you have not thereby sold the roof, the usable space of the roof, bisman sheyesh lo ma'akeh gavua asarat tvachim, provided that the roof has a fence around it at a height of 10 tfachim. Now remember, there is a Torah obligation to build a fence around one's usable roof. The law of ma'akeh, lest someone fall and die and there be blood on your hands. So the halachically required dimensions of that fence are official mechitza, which is 10 tfachim, 10 handbreadths. If such a fence is in place around the roof of a house, that makes it a space which could be used for whatever purpose you want. And so in the sale of a house, that gag, that roof has not been included. 62. Samach bet. Matzah lo metzah rishon, umatzah sheni, umatzah shlishi. What happens if somebody is selling a field to someone else? So the seller delineates 3 out of the 4 boundaries for the buyer. Boundary 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. So the question is, what was actually sold, since not all 4 boundaries are demarcated? So Metzravi lo matzalo Amar Rav says Kana kol chutz me'Metzravi. The buyer acquires the entirety of the field shaped out by the 3 borders and is only going to lose out on the strip of land, the furrow size of land that would have been the 4th border. Where Shmuel says, no, you didn't need to delineate the 4th border. It's known, it's apparent by just connecting the dots to complete the square or the 4 sides, and so the purchaser does get even the furrow of what would have been the 4th side. Rav Asi says, no, actually a field wasn't even sold. Just 3 straight lines were sold that make a U, resemble the letter U. And a furrow along all 3 borders, but not the field in between. Samach Gimel, 63. Tanu Rabban. Ben Levi shemachar sadali Yisrael. What happens if a Levite sells a field to a regular Yisrael? V'amarlo, and said to him, Almanat shemaser rishon shali. I sell you this field on condition that I get to keep for myself whatever maaser rishon, first tithe, you remit from the yield of this field. Maaser rishon shalo. It works, the stipulation is effective, and the purchaser has to give his maaser rishon from the yield of that field to the former owner. And if the seller says, not only do I want this deal to be in effect in my lifetime, I want it even to be in effect after my lifetime on behalf of my children, it works even after his death, even posthumously. The maaser rishon goes to the guy's kids. So we ask a question, Amai, why does this work? After all, you cannot engage in transactions, in commercial transactions, concerning items that don't yet exist in the world. And this Maaser Rishon is for the future, doesn't yet exist. Well, the Gemara answers, since the guy said, I want to retain the Maaser for myself, in effect what he is saying is, I would like 1/10 of this field to remain in a vestige of it, vestigially, in my possession. And that's why it works, despite being Davar Shelo Bala Ola. 64. Samach Daled. Hamocher tabayit. If you sell a house, lo machar tabor v'lo tadut. You have not sold the pit or the water cistern which is on the property. Even though the seller wrote in the deed of sale that the buyer is getting the omek, the depth, and the room, the height of the property, nonetheless, these water sources are retained by the original owner. Rabbi Akiva says the seller must buy from the new owner a right of way, an access route to get to the cistern. Whereas the sages say, no, it's not necessary. Since we know that these water sources are not included in the sale of the property, it becomes unnecessary for the old owner to buy a right of way. And even Rabbi Akiva admits there's no need to buy a right of way if the deed of sale explicitly mentions that the bor vadut are not included in the sale. 65. Samachet. If you sell a house You've sold the door, but you haven't sold the key. Why should this be the case? Because the door is a mechuber lakarka. It's part of the house which is affixed to the ground, attached to the ground, and whatever is mechuber lakarka is included in the house. However, the key, the mafteach, is an example of metaltalin, a movable item, and a movable item is not included in the sale of real property. Samach Vav, 66. Kaveret beehive. What's the status of a beehive? Is it considered like karka, like the real estate, or is it a metaltlin, a movable item? Rabbi Eliezer Mahavik karka. Rabbi Eliezer says it's like land, real estate, my time, huh? Dichtiv, because it says in a pasuk concerning Yonatan ben Shaul, Jonathan the son of Saul, Vaitbolo tabiarot devash, that he dipped his stick in the honeycomb. Just as if you were to detach, to pluck something from a forest, a yar, on Shabbat, you are liable for a sin offering, for inadvertent Sabbath desecration. So too, if you poke at a honeycomb to extract something on Shabbat, it's a biblical violation. Samach Zayin, 67. What happens if you sell a courtyard? You've sold all the houses and the water sources, but you have not sold the movable items that happen to be located at that time in the courtyard. However, if you were to say, I'm buying this and everything that happens to right now be inside of it, then even the metaltlin, even the movable items are also sold as part of this deal. Rabbi Eliezer, however, Rabbi Eliezer has a very different perspective. He says if you sell a courtyard, you've only sold the airspace. You've sold nothing else. That a courtyard is the empty space in between the various houses that are located in this courtyard, but nothing else has been sold. So Rabbi Eliezer is a very minimalistic perspective on what is the courtyard. Everyone have a great week.